"I deserve the money," my brother-in-law said. "No you don't," I retorted. "You don't deserve a penny. It's our money. We worked for it. We saved and saved to make sure we had enough. You haven't contributed anything to our lives, why do you think we should give you some?" "Because, this is my brother's money," he said. I laughed. "In your dreams," I replied. "It belongs to myself and my husband. We work together and make decisions regarding finance. You can't just feel entitled to other people's sweat. Who do you think you are?" I female 23 am 5 months pregnant and my partner, P, is male 32. We have our own small business that we opened 2 years ago. We're the only employees and I also work part-time elsewhere. We are currently buying our house. My brother-in-law, male 33 on the other hand supports his unemployed wife alone, female 32, my sister-in-law, and their 1-year-old daughter. They live in a rented apartment in the same city as us. Yesterday, my brother-in-law paid us a visit. I went outside to join them. As I walked about the porch, my husband stretched out his hands in motion and called me, "Honey, come sit with us. We have something important we wanted to tell you." I was surprised cause he hardly asks me to sit with his brother and him during discussions. P tells me almost off the bat that we are going to lend a lot of money to my brother-in-law to help build his case for a private housing agency. "I have decided we are going to give my brother some money to help him build his case for a private housing agency," P said. I couldn't believe my ears. My brother-in-law had told P that he was going to go through a private agency for housing because the social landlords that he contacted 1 year ago still haven't followed up on his case. Mind you, he and my sister-in-law are not struggling as much as the other people who contact the social landlords, so they are not at the top of the list. He also said that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were fed up with the neighborhood. My brother-in-law looked up at me as my husband spoke. He had a huge grin on his face. He proceeded to remind me of the huge fire that happened around where they lived. Yes, it affected them a little, but just a few things they left downstairs and outside. Their neighbor on the hand wasn't so lucky. "Now, we can move to a better neighborhood where there are no fires and no fear of crime while we sleep," my brother-in-law said while still smiling at me. P threw the bomb at me like that. I didn't say anything in front of them, but I couldn't hide the fact that I wasn't agreeing and kindly began asking for my brother-in-law to find alternatives like a bank loan or something. "Have you thought about going to get a loan? Banks have favorable interests if you talk to the right people," I said. Honestly, I didn't really anything about that right now, but I just wanted him to get off our backs. He said that a loan wasn't an option and that the bank would never accept him and his wife since his wife has been unemployed for 10 years and he's not allowed to contract one himself because of some old debts he had in the past. I went back upstairs seething.
I stomped up the stairs and banged the door.
There were a series of uncontrollable events that pissed me off even more. The cat dropped the laundry I had folded right on the floor. Then I spilled water on the floor and then the dog started chasing the second cat around me and around the house. I got so overwhelmed and yelled. I tried to calm myself down, but I couldn't. It was as if the milk was boiling in the pan and even if the fire had been turned off it was still boiling over. I failed to control myself, to stop, and for the first time in my life I threw something across the room. Then I screamed at my pets and began to hysterically cry from all the emotions I had bottled up since a few weeks. I had issues with my part-time work, extreme fatigue, etc. I didn't think the boys would hear the commotion coming from inside, but they did. My husband screamed from downstairs, "Honey, are you okay?" I didn't reply. There was silence. I figured replying would further make things complicated, especially since my brother-in-law was still around. That made my brother-in-law think that it was entirely directed at him and he angrily left. P walked upstairs and asked, "Are you okay, honey?" I stared at him. I had tears in my eyes. "My brother just left," P said. "He felt uncomfortable with all the screaming and yelling going on upstairs and he felt like you hate him already." P got a bit mad at me for not keeping my cool because he too is on edge since a few weeks and I know that we're going nowhere if we both get overwhelmed like that. I kind of feel guilty because of that, but I can't help thinking that it's not a bad thing since my brother-in-law probably won't ask again for money. I don't know if my brother-in-law really realizes that he already saves a lot of money because P gives him a lot of money. I don't think he realizes that we give him a lot of money, from €100 to €200. every month because my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live beyond their means. When my brother-in-law asked P, was P, my husband, said it was, for his niece. It's not as if we weren't expecting our own child ourselves or that we really were part of the girl's life by having only seen her 3 or 4 times in almost a year and a half. Not to mention that they could also ask sister-in-law's family, at least to share the costs with us. Her sister makes the same amount as us. Just like the bank alternative, my brother-in-law wasn't open to any suggestion. I can't help but think that sister-in-law is the one behind this request, as she'd rather send her husband to ask his little brother for the millionth time for money than to wake up and find a job for herself. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law both know that P is too kind for his own good. It's been 3 years since I've entered their life. I never said anything but this: it's too much for me. I'm pregnant and I'm still working a second job. Even if our business provides for us quite well on its own, it's better to have a safety net. Thanks to that we can afford to save money, go on vacation, pay off our own house loan, prepare for our baby's birth, etc. It's decided that I soon will have to resign to take care of our kid full-time while working from home for our business, at least for the first year. We already know that we'll need to concentrate all of our resources for us, not for the not-so-struggling leeches around. The top replies. You have to talk to her husband about this. He can't promise money and loan out to people without asking you. It's both her business. Also, he is now having a child of his own on the way and has to start think about the child's and family's future and security. The original poster replies. I know, we already had that conversation in the past. He didn't promise anything and expressed his concerns, but he began to talk to me about that in front of brother-in-law. Brother-in-law knows that I'm not as willing to lend money as him, so he talked to him alone. Sadly, my husband is not the kind of person to directly say no to avoid confrontation, and he deeply loves his brother. I can't get mad at him because of that. The second reply. Yes, you can. His inability to say no is absolutely no excuse to disrespect your marriage. That money is yours as well, and promising a large amount to anyone without talking to you first is beyond disrespectful. He needs to learn to say no to his brother and to stop allowing him to use you both. He's not doing them any favors by subsidizing their lives. They know they have him as a safety net, so they continue to behave irresponsibly. At some point your husband needs to prioritize you and your soon-to-be-born child. He cannot continue doing what he's doing. Your son-in-law needs to get a goddamn job. But why would she when she can just send her husband out to demand money from you guys? Because let's be clear, he asks, but it's really a demand. A request comes with the acknowledgement that the requestee can say no. He asks expecting a yes. That's not a request. Original poster. Your husband needs to grow some ovaries or borrow your set, because this is ridiculous. He needs to learn how to tell his brother no and mean it. Stop giving them money and don't let them use your niece to manipulate you. If this was about their child, they'd actually make an effort to properly care for her. They're just lazy users. Don't be complicit in their BS. The third reply. Your husband is the real problem here. I'd start separating finances and let your husband know that you are no longer happy that he's putting his brother's family first instead of his. You both need a serious talk and some serious boundaries regarding finances and priorities. His brother is responsible for his wife and daughter, and your husband is responsible for his own unborn child. So what if brother-in-law heard you getting overwhelmed and angrily left? He should know his behavior is causing you stress, and your husband should be aware that his yes attitude and lax boundaries is affecting his wife and mother of his child.
I'd say sit down and have a serious conversation with your husband regarding his brother's behavior and what boundaries should be set in place.
Go to couples therapy if you both need to. In the meantime, you need to figure out how to separate finances just in case, and show your husband that you mean business when it comes to protecting your child and yourself financially. The second story. I'm going to leave my boyfriend because he refuses to work less. My boyfriend, 26 male, and I, 26F, have been together for 3 years now. We have had a rocky relationship as he had relapsed on drugs for a couple of months early in the relationship, and I was fresh from a divorce when I met him. After the first year, we kind of got our footing, and the chemistry we shared was unlike anything I'd had before. By year 2, we moved in together. It's been 15 months living together now and I am the loneliest I have ever been. He started a new position when we first moved in together and quickly advanced with the company. He did so by working multiple 10 to 12-hour days every week, and working half days on Saturday. He thinks if he keeps up the pace, he can have enough savings to buy investment properties and live off passive income within the next 3 years. It's a cool plan for someone who is diligent enough to do it, and I have no doubts he can. But he's literally killing his body in the process. He has had multiple abscesses start appearing all over his body, he is vomiting every morning, he sleeps 5 hours a night and I can see the tired in his eyes. I have tried being a voice of reason, telling him to go to the doctor and to please just work a few less hours a week. He's in finance, so it's not like a life or death situation. He refuses to listen to me, that he knows best and that the time he spends working is worth it all. I've also tried telling him lately how bad my eating disorder has been lately. He is refusing to listen when I say I need more one-on-one time with him and genuine connection with him. Even with my asking, he continues with either his never-ending working or he goes to hang out with his brother. Last night our issues came to a head, and I couldn't stay quiet. He went to a beautiful restaurant, alone, and I ate ramen at home. He got home, and went straight to his emails. I said, "Wow, can't even say how was your day?" And he fired back immediately. He said some pretty harsh stuff and I won't say I'm innocent with my word choices, but he basically said, "I'm giving everything I can to you, if you need more then go find it." And I think that's when it hit me that I'm done trying to fight for him. It won't change. He cannot prioritize me the same way I do for him. This morning, a Saturday, he went straight to work at 6 a.m., and finished at noon. He then went out to eat with his brother. I just wanted to get it off my chest that I hope he does become the successful man he dreams to be. And I hope I find the love of a partner that values emotional connection as much as I do.
The first story.
I'm in a similar situation to your boyfriend and I cannot stress this enough. It is absolutely not the right time in my life for me to be with anyone. At the moment I usually work every day for 8 to 10 hours per day, taking a short day every week to only 6 hours. It sounds like the grind is actually killing him, though. I respect your efforts to convince him to slow down, but he sounds like he is extremely financially anxious and is willing to take serious risks to establish himself. He's probably a good guy, but this isn't a good time in his life to be in a relationship. The second reply. Then leave him. And please don't bank on other people helping you with your eating disorder. That's on you, and you need to seek help from a professional, not blame others for not being around enough. Everything else you said makes sense. Ex-junkies will replace using with work pretty often in the first couple years. I know this from being a former junkie. You both have a lot of work to do, maybe separately would be best. The original poster reply. No, not harsh, I think I learned that lesson from my first husband. Your side makes me want to give him grace though. I'm remembering small comments on how he wants to slip. I think you're right, we both need some help right now.